Um, just wanted to understand, let's say if someone has, developed uh, different ETL suite on the Microsoft stack or Azure stack, which is not exactly on AWS, and if they need to migrate it on AWS, how this ZeroETL can, give them a quick start onto it. Is like, let's say something has been built on Databricks or something has been built on obviously, this is not so relevant question, but somewhere some client may want to, migrate something from one platform to other.
Right.
It's already on the cloud. Let's say it's all there on, Azure Data Factory or maybe in the on-premise uh, legacy system like SSIS or something. So as you suggested to Gagan, that there are multiple way to do it. Will that help this one? Is this a easy migration available or is something like again you will have to redo it, but obviously that will be little simpler because you say you don't have to drag and drop or design your ETL in many of the cases where things are straightforward, right?
Correct. So, I think what you mentioned, right, AK, I think what you mentioned, that's important, right? When you talk about Microsoft or any specific stack, right, you need to sit down and understand what exactly the stack provides in terms of, as I mentioned, right, what is that refactoring cost? That's more
Mm-hmm.
important. The refactoring
Mm-hmm.
cost is the same thing. Now, for example, you mentioned two, three tools in your question. One is Databricks. Now, if you go
Mm-hmm.
and understand and double click on Databricks, absolutely. Databricks do have Spark. Like when you talk about programming language, most of the people will leverage Spark. And one thing is that then option comes is if you want to move the as is, like you want to minimize the changes as minimal as possible, still want to leverage AWS. Then in that case, you can leverage EMR serverless. If you don't want to manage infrastructure and want to still get those things, you can leverage EMR serverless because that it provides. If Glue do have certain restriction,
In,
then you can
in
leverage
that
their
case,
serverless. Sorry.
yeah. In that case, obviously database can be, I was just giving a context. Maybe database was not a great example there, but especially, SSIS
SSIS.
or, ADF to certain extent, maybe because people like client mode may change and they, they need to move it to move
Correct.
themselves completely on AWS. Then how this, zero ETL can be a, easy sellout thing or something.
Exactly. So in case of SSIS, let's take an example of SSIS, right? So I just, as I mentioned, SSIS also most of the time leverages SQL queries, right? It's a SQL queries what you have, which you've wrapped around with an orchestration visual workflow with
No,
drag.
not at all. Not completely correct. In many of the cases when things are simple, people simply write in procedure or SQL query and they wrap it. But in many of the cases who are traditional ETL developer, they will do a drag and drop, do
Correct.
multi-class, whatever they have to do, they will simply do it in the SSIS workflows rather than writing a SQL query. So that I
Exactly.
have seen in the past has been, heavily used in places.
Correct. Absolutely. I completely agree with you that SSIS or even the similar things like talent, right? And which is
Hmm.
saying the first point, like when I mentioned three things.
Yeah, they were saying, yeah, yeah.
Correct. The first point was around the change management perspective. Like the change management is people are more used to of doing drag and drop and those kinds of things. That's where it's very important that what you can leverage is maybe Glue Studio is one of them. And there are different connectors out available in the market. Like there are specific organizations or companies available which can allow you looking at your graphical workflow. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have this graph workflow, right? There is a
Hmm.
specific available organization and you can reach out to me offline. I can recommend you a couple of things where
Hmm.
you can leverage your workflow, the runtime workflow file what you have, which is generated whichever tool you talk about. Looking at
Hmm.
that graphical execution workflow, they can do a reverse engineering like a pattern matching, and then they can generate the Spark job. That Spark job you can run it on Databricks, you run it on AWS EMR, you run it on Glue, and then you can leverage all of the zero ETL on it. If you want to more simplify, I don't want to write that big custom thing, maybe something available around it. So answer is in every cases, do AWS will provide that conversion from maybe XYZ tool to Glue and EMR? Maybe may not be given the tool, what tool are we talking about? But there are specific organizations which I have seen have been very supportive in writing those kinds of a conversion thing.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear from you. But yeah.
Yep. No, I've seen,
Hmm.
like, honestly, I've also done one of the use cases where one of our customers was using Informatica, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of moving towards cloud, they said, I want to move towards the cloud ETL only, like what is provided by
Mm-hmm.
ETL. And they were leveraging Informatica left, right, like all over the place, the Informatica. And I'm not talking about like 10, 15 jobs. It was 100, 200 plus job. So the volumes
Mm-hmm.
is like huge. And that's what it's a common thing when you talk about an enterprise customer leveraging a tool for 10, 12 years. So option
Yeah.
one is I can have more human-based approach, keep converting job by job, which will take you ages to do it. The second option
Mm-hmm.
is we can take more of machine learning based different connectors, which are provided by third party. You have to pay one time cost, but that can help you in accelerated way to convert your Informatica jobs or any other jobs to your destination ETL. And that's how you can more focus on leveraging your how you want to simplify and modernize your cloud landscape.
Yeah. Yeah.